Gaze into the abyss.
Absorb pain.
I can't do this just yet.
Hello, welcome to the Voidforge Ice Crash build guide. So here's a disclaimer: this is not for beginners, and you will need to have some intermediate crafting knowledge to make this build guide works. And another thing is that this is not a, how do I call it, a step-by-step guide. Like a lot of things I'll go through are just they're options. They're for you to choose what you want to do with your build. This is more like a template. At the end of the day, you play how you want to play. Your gear will depend on your gem selections. Will affect your aura selections. These are just what I use. You could use something completely different from what I use. Okay, so let's get into it. Here's the pros and cons. I'll just go through some. So we have decent survivabilities. We have 24k armor, which is quite nice due to the recent armor changes. I could get to like 250 something stacks on T60 maps, which is pretty good for a build that uses abysses. We have 50 million Cyrus DPS or Shaper DPS. Now I'm being very super realistic here as well. I didn't check all the boxes. It's actually decent bosser. I've done pretty much a majority of the bosses in this game. I know there's some I just don't try because I can't be bothered. I'm not gonna drop 6x on a Cortex map. I really can't. I can't be bothered. It has high min-max potential because we will be crafting some stuff, and there's always things that you can add on to your craft. Now, this is not beginner friendly, as the gear cost is high because we rely on a lot of uniques that are popular, unfortunately, and it's a melee playstyle, so it's not for everyone. It also means that we're gonna die quite a lot if you're not good at the game. I'm sorry, but yeah, rely on uniques again, and do not play this at League Start. It's not League Start friendly at all. Okay, unless you're God Gamer Queen 69. Okay, so here's the gem selection. So Ice Crash. The reason why I chose Ice Crash is because it's an AoE skill, so it's already better clear than most skills. what I mean by most skill is like strike skills, for example. Um, Ice Crash already has 100% cold conversion. This means that we don't need to waste mods on gear, passive points to get any fizz to elemental, which is quite efficient in my opinion. Uh, Rage now. Rage gives us attack speed, flat fizz, which is what we need to use to scale the Voidforge. Multi strike, that's quite self-explanatory. Trinity, Trinity is a bit of a confusing one. Essentially, you can think of it as like if you if you do a elemental damage like fire, cold, or lightning, you gain a resonance. If you gain all three resonance, then it boosts all three elements at the same time, which is what we get. Okay, if this is too confusing, just it just works. Okay, it just works. Okay, inspiration can be optional, but you will need this if you have a corrupted Voidforge with the um, mod socketed gems supported by level 10 fortify, because it essentially gives us pseudo 6 link, and the mana cost with the recent mana changes is insane, so we need inspiration to keep the mana cost down. Now the 6th gem is could be either fortify, or if you don't have fortify, then you can get it from the Voidforge corruption. Or it could be elemental damage, awaken elemental damage, or close combat. Up to you. If you have the budget, awaken elemental damage is always nice, just because we can do elemental reflect maps. Now for the totem setup, we have Vow Ancestral Warchief. Now drop Vow Ancestral Warchief for boss damage. Warchief just to boost our attack damage. Ancestral Protector help us with attack speed, which works well with multi-strike. Ruthless, because we have the mastery. Ruthless blow intimidates enemy for like 4 seconds, so we can intimidate bosses with our totem setup, which is very nice because it gives us increased 10% attack damage, or the boss takes 10% increased attack damage. Okay, so here's the aura setup. Now another disclaimer here, this aura setup is up to you. If you don't have enough mana, just choose the one that is important to your build. If you do have enough budget, then yeah, you can reserve all of these banners, no problem. Apart from arrogance, because that's in case if you don't have enough mana. But I'll go through this. So, determination and defiance banner is just to give us huge amount of armor, which is to stop us from getting absolutely destroyed by mobs because we have the abysses on. Blood and sand, so blood stance boosts single target damage. Sand stance helps with clear. Precision gives us accuracy ratings and crit chance. Purity elements. This is very important, this one, because we do struggle capping our res. So 34 all res is very nice, and it gives us immune to elemental ailments such as shock, which for those of you who don't know, shock increases the damage that we take, and this means that we never get shocked, and this is a huge defensive bonuses, because it means that we essentially take less damage from mobs. Enlighten to reduce the reservation efficiency, to increase the reservation efficiency. However, you don't actually need the level 4. You can just use a level 3, because a level 4 Enlighten is like 18 Exalted Orbs, which is quite a lot. I got very lucky with mine. I corrupted mine and I got a level 4, but you don't need level 3. If you do have level 3, you will need to make some changes, such as like anointment. But I will go through that kind of stuff later on in the slides. Now, hatred is a huge damage boost for us because we deal mostly cold damage. So hatred is a nice boost to our damage. Now you can get hatred via replica Highway's Truth, which will I think increase 50% reservation efficiency. or you can use All's Uprising, which means that Hydra has no will reserve no mana. So yeah, which is very nice because it means that we can actually absorb, we can actually reserve other auras. Arrogant support. Now, arrogant support is completely optional. However, if you don't have enough mana to reserve all the auras, then I highly suggest you use arrogant support and you pair up with precision, because I believe precision doesn't have like a percentage mana, but it has like a set mana reservation. So arrogant support really helps that. We only reserve about like 400 life or 300 life when we reserve a level 20 precision. But this is what you would use if you don't have enough mana. Okay, so we have the our utility curse and buff setups. So we have Rage, Blood Rage. This gives us attack speed and chance to get frenzy charges. Vow Haste. We're not reserving the actual haste skills. We're just using the Vow skill during boss fights because it gives us a huge amount of attack speed boosts. Molten Shell. With our 24k armor, we can get like about 6k buffer on the Molten Shell, which is very strong. Assassin's Mark plus Elemental Weakness. This is our two curses of choice. Assassin's Mark gives more crit multi and more crit chances, while Elemental Weakness reduces, it reduces the elemental resistance of enemies. You can have this on a cursed on hit ring or cast on damage taken setup. Leap sounds are traveling skill. Enduring cries are emergency panic button and endurance charge generation. So what you would do is you would just leap slam into a pack, enduring cry to gain endurance charges, or you can endurance cry near a boss. That would also work as well. Increased duration, that is just to prolong our buffs, so it will prolong Blood Rage, Vow Haste, and Molten Shell. So for the offhand, we need to have a Chain Hook Rage Hydrosphere setup, because if we don't have Rage, we lose a huge amount of damage. So we need this setup for a prolonged boss fight such as Cyrus and Maven. And Hydrosphere is what we use to generate Rage if we hit it with Chain Hook. The weapon of choice is Voidforge. So for those of you who don't know, Voidforge works by taking the weapon's physical damage, convert that into an element, and then scales off and times by 300%. So essentially, the more flat fizz that we can add to the weapon, which will increase the weapon's physical DPS, the more the Voidforge will scale. So we want the highest increase in physical damage roll to be as high as possible. The others aren't that important, but it's nice to have, which is a higher attack speed, because we're a multi-strike build. The highest life, as you can get, because we're a life-based build. The correction to look for is number 1, the most important one. Socketed Gem is ported by level 10 Fortify. If you use this, right, you will need inspiration in the sockets. Otherwise, the cost of 7 link is really, really high. To you, the mana cost of 7 link is really, really high. Now, other corruptions to look for is added flat fizz, increased physical damage, and attack speed. Don't get Resolute Technique because we're a crit build. The best helmet in slot, unfortunately, is an Abyssus. Now, with Abyssus, we obviously get a huge amount of flat fizz and crit multi. But the downside is that we have increased physical damage taken. This means that you want the increased physical damage taken mod to be the lowest as possible, which is 40%. Alternatively, we have replica Abyssus. Now, we will actually do less damage, but the survivability is a lot better. Similar to Abyssus, we want the increased elemental damage taken to be the lowest as possible. So here's the alternative. So we have Died Bell and Died Below and Rat's Nest. I don't recommend the these two, because we're a slayer. So what's the point of not being able to leech when on low life, right? That kind of defeats the whole point of the ascendancy. So we're just gonna go with Rat's Nest if that's, if you're looking for a unique armor, a unique helmet, or alternatively you can just look for a rare helmet with life, resist, and armor. Now the enchant, these are the enchant that I personally recommend. Um, do whatever you want really. I mean, it's your build could be different to mine. Corruptions, my abysses isn't corrupted. You can try and go corrupt yours, gamble your luck. Yeah, up to you. These are the ones that I recommend that you look for in corruptions. For armor, we have a few choices. So a Belly of the Beast, just live res, all defensive stats. Carcass Jacket, you got a bit of AOE, you got a bit of aero damage, you got a bit of res and life. Law Weave is probably the best unique armor in here. It offers flat fizz, critical damage, critical scratch chance, increased maximum resistance, increased elemental damage. Yeah. So overall, if you have the money, go for a very well rolled Law Weave. Now, if you want something that's a little bit better, we can go for the armor. So this is mine. It's a Hunter and Redeemer influence armor. So it has attacks have plus percentage to critical strike chance, 24% increase effect of non-curse aura from your skills, and you can apply additional curse. So how do you make something like this? So you awaken the Hunter base with attacks have additional quick strike chance. With a Redeemer, increase effects of non-aura onto an astral plate. Pray for an open prefix, and craft suffix cannot be changed. Now, if you don't have the open prefix, you can always go reforge prefix to reforge a prefix, and then you can then craft a suffix cannot be changed. Reforge caster to get a guaranteed additional curse mod. Now, you can craft life and just end it here, or you can craft suffix cannot be changed for Aslan Slam to get increased maximum life and mana. Now, if you failed this step, don't worry, we can just repeat step 2, 3, and 4 and try again. Now, for the belts, the best one is overall is Restless's Coil, or for leveling, you can use Belt of the Deceiver. If you don't have enough money to get a Rithlas's Coil, then you can grab an Abyssal Jewel and a Darkest Throne. Well, you can grab two Abyssal Jewels and a Darkest Throne. What Darkness Throne does is it increases the effect of Abyssal Jewel. So, if you have an Abyssal Jewel, something like this. Now, this is something I made on Craft of Exile, so it's theoretically this will be like something like Mirror Tail. I suppose it's very difficult to get something like this, but look for something like this and then socket it in Darkest Throne. The damage you get is probably more than a badly rolled Restless's Coil. So, and this would probably be a lot cheaper than a Restless's Coil in the beginning of a league or something like that. Additional mods you can look for is damage penetrate, element resistance if you haven't killed recently, and attack speed. Now, belt enchant, you have plus armor where you have 4 to 5 and recover 2% life when you kill an enemy where you have rage. I personally prefer the second one because it makes mapping a lot easier. Now, amulet, also uprising, up to you. Determination, hatred, or purity elements. Now, in this league, determination and purity elements is super like popular. So the determination and and purity of elements is like what 20x, whereas hatred is only 1x. So I went with the hatred one. Or you can have Desiro's Salute. This is a leveling unique. Or you can have Replica's High-Risk Truth. This will help us with mana a little bit because it reduces the reservation for hatred, and it gives us flat fizz and crit multi, which is very nice, and a bit of stats too. Now for the enchants, I said before, like if you don't have level 3 enlightened, this is where you would enchant sovereignty, which is it will help you in reserve less mana for your auras. Now if you don't have mana problems, you could go Panopticon, which boosts the effect of your totems, which gives you huge amount of boss damage. You can go Force of Nature, which penetrates 10% elemental res. Ash, Frost, and Storm just what it does is it increases effects of non-damaging elements. So essentially, it just lowers the threshold that you need to apply Scorch, Brittle, and Sap. It's just a nice quality of life for bosses. You don't really need this. Divine Judgment, this is a cheap annoyment. It does give you a nice damage boost. But yeah, again, up to you. You can pick whatever you want. For boots, we have a two-tone boots because it helps us with resistances. Now, this is a Tailwind elusive boots. You don't need this. You don't get a huge damage boost from this, but it's something that I just wanted to have. You can craft this quite easily. There's many guides on YouTube, so I won't waste my breath on this. I think they're a lot better crafting guide than what I can make. Or you can just look for red boots with high life, high move speed, and resistance. For the enchant, you can go for elemental penetrate if you haven't killed recently, which is good for boss damage. Now for the unique boots, Wind Scream and Wind Shriek is a nice 2-1 because you can apply additional curse. This is really strong for early mapping. However, with the 3.17 changes where prophecy is getting removed, I have no idea what's going to happen to Wind Shriek. So Wind Scream is technically the only choice out of the two. Alternatively, you can get Red Blade Tramplers, which just a bit of quality of life because we are unaffected by Burning Ground and we have a bit of flat fizz. That's all. For rings, we got two-tone ring and an unset ring. I do recommend an unset ring because we do kind of start for gem slots, and if you have O's Uprising, you can slot in the aura for in here instead of slotting in with the enlighten. So you can reserve other auras with your enlighten setup. Now for the rings, you want to look for elemental weakness, assassin's mark, life, res, and a flat fizz. Now I put non-challenge skill have minus mana cost. This is very important, especially when you have a 7-link, pseudo 7-link, because of the amount of aura that we are reserving. We don't have that much mana, so every single way of reducing your mana cost is going to be really helpful in terms of quality of life. For gloves, we have a spike glove here. So this is mine again. So you want to look for life res, flat fizz, and attack speed. Now, if you want something like a curling strike glove, it's actually really easy to craft. So you need a level 73 spike glove. No other item level, only item level 73. You spam metallic frigate and pristine fossil until you have good enough life and res. You can always change the resistant type with harvest. Now pray for 2 prefixes because we're gonna block one of the prefix, the last prefix, with a benchcraft mod, and then we're gonna warlord exalted orb the suffix, and we're gonna guarantee to get a curling strike mod. And you can then remove the benchcraft and craft something you need. Alternatively, you can use Oxarm, which triggers level 10 Assassin's Mark when you hit a rare or unique enemy. Tomb Fist for the intimidation and highs of High Templar. Now, the corrupted mod that you want to look for is Elemental Weakness mod, plus percentage to crit chance, and attack speed. Now, if you get all 3 of these mods, it's going to be very expensive. Just get you will need to get the Elemental Weakness curse, or if you have a little bit more money, get the attack speed or the crit chance one. But if you can't obviously get all 3, but it's going to be very expensive. Now the jewels, look for the crit multi jewels. So look for crit multi with 200 melee weapons plus melee crit multi and global critical strike multiplier, or you can look for crit multi with cold skill, attack speed, attribute, res, crit multi with elemental skills. We will need a few of these because this is a huge amount of damage boost to us. However, this jewel I show you guys here, this is something that I made on part of Craft of Exile. If you get something like this in trade, it will probably cost you like 10x or something. I don't know. It's gonna be really expensive. But yeah, just look for a few crit multi mods. Not look like don't get like triple crit multi mods because that's gonna be very expensive. Watch your size. Now there's loads. So this is where I have to ask you guys to go on the wiki because there is just so many mods, and it really depends on your situation. For me, I have a bit of fizz taken as cold damage, and damage penetrates 40% cold resistance while affected by hatred. That's just me, but you can choose something completely different. Now the other jewel is the interrogation. Now, so I will have to explain what Scorch, Brittle, and Sap is. So if we have interrogation, which give us Secrets of Suffering keystone, we cannot do ignite, chill, freeze, or shock. Okay. Now ignite will become Scorch. Now what Scorch does, it simply lowers the elemental resistance of an enemy by 30%, well, up to 30%. Freeze and chill becomes Brittle. Now Brittle is extremely powerful. So what Brittle does, it adds base critical chance, and what that means, basically, if you add something base critical chance in this game, it just means that you have a better foundation of crit chance. Now Voidforge has very low base crit chance, so if we apply Brittle, it increases our base crit chance, and we can actually have 100% crit chance in this if we have 15 stacks of Brittle, which is very powerful. Sapped essentially is a fortify. Essentially, if we sap an enemy, it will deal up to 20% less damage. It's the same as fortify, so it's nice defensive bonuses. But we mainly look for Scorch and Brittle. If we have 4 stacks of Scorch and Brittle, it's a huge damage boost for us.
For cluster jewels, we want 8 passive skills, 2 jewel sockets. You want the attack damage one, and you want the damage with 2-handed weapons. For the notables, you want Feed the Fury, which gives you attack speed and attack damage. Feel the Flight. This is your mana leech, so it is important that you have this no matter what. Okay, this is very important. Always have this. Martial Powers, Calamitous, and Titanic Swings. There are many more, but like I said before, depending on situation, depending on what you want and what you need, but you will need Feel the Fight because this is your only source of mana leech. We have the Flask here, so we have Wise Oak. So what Wise Oak does is during the Flask effect, the damage penetrates 10 to 50% resistant of each element for which your uncapped element resistance is highest. Now, if we were to triple balance all 3 uncapped elemental resistance, then Wise Oak will work on all 3 elements. If we can't, then we can only boost 1 element. So only use Wise Oak if your uncapped elemental resistance is all the same. Okay, if you can't, then you have to use Taste of Hate, which gives us a bit of percentage fizz damage as extra cold damage, and it gives us a bit of fizz taken as cold, and 50% cold rest. Now I don't recommend use Taste of Haste and Wise Oak together, because Taste of Hate has 50% plus 50% cold resistance when you use the Flask, which will screw up your triple uncapped elemental resistance, which will override the Wise Oak. So don't use the 2 together, okay? Lion's Roar. So melee physical damage during effect. This is a must-have for any melee build. So we have the utility flask. We have quite a few selections up to you. So you have silver flask, which gives you onslaught, silver flask, quicksilver, and basalt flask. The most to look for on these flasks is increased attack speed during flask effect. Unfortunately, this does not scale, so you can only have one flask with this. Immunity to poison, immunity to bleeding, and corrupted blood. Now, life flask, we have internal life flask. We want the instant recovery one, or well, any of these really. Grants immune to corrupting blood and bleeding. It grants immunity to poison. Yeah. Bandits is kill all. Pantheons, these are the ones I recommend, but again, depending on what you need. Okay, so here's my skill tree. So first of all, I'll go through the ascendancy first. Now, there's a bit of choice when it comes to ascendancy. So I recommend to have overwhelm all the time because this increases our base crit chance for a weapon. This really helps with Voidforge low base crit chance, and also reduces the crit multiplier of nearby enemies, which is quite nice. Bit of survivability. Impact just help us to gain more accuracy rating. It also scales increase area of effect, so we don't need the area effect gems like increase area effect or pulverize in our gem setup. So we don't need like another Voidforge in our offhand. Brutal Feather basically just means that we are always leeching. It's a nice defensive layer for us. And Bane of Legends, 10% more damage if I killed recently, 20% more damage against hits and ailment against unique enemies. It's very good for bossing nodes. The reason why I picked these is because Endless Hunger, I can just get that from Unwavering Stance. And Headsman, essentially all this is Curling Strike. I have that on my glove, so I don't need that. So that's why I pick these, because these ascendancy nodes suits my gear and the current situation I'm in. However, if you feel like you need Curling Strike, go for Headsman. If you feel like you have enough defenses, well, you can go for other things. It's really up to you. There's quite a few selections. I don't recommend going these two though, because we're not stacking frenzy charges. So this is basically a useless ascendancy nodes here. So always just play around with these 6. Okay. Now I'll just go through my tree. So my tree here is my endgame tree. Now I won't go through like the exact step like how you would allocate the skill nodes. Is up to you. But I will go through why I picked some of these masteries and sections of the skill tree. So because we're a leech build, leech is very vulnerable against degens. So one of the degen is corrupted blood. Is super powerful. I think 3.15 they did buff degens. Corrupted blood is ridiculous, so having corrupted blood immunity is very nice on us. Unwavering stance, because we don't get stunned, because in 3.16 Scourge, if you stand still, you're pretty much GG. Huge life node here to get loaded life, and we have 10% increase in maximum life. Self-explanatory, you know, abysses, more life, more survivability, right? These ones attack speeds, increase attack speed, and this increases maximum rage. So this further scales our rage gem, which gives us more flat damage, which is scales the abysses, and it also gives us attack speed. Ruthless hits intimidate enemy for 4 seconds. This is because of our gem setup, so our totem setup, which is ruthless here. So if our totem does a ruthless blow, it will intimidate the enemy, and what it does is that intimidated enemy will take 10% increased attack damage. This is a nice damage boost for our during boss fights and just yeah, in general, really. So more life here, a bit of stats, because we do struggle on dexterity and intelligence. Crit node, obviously, because of crit build attack speed. More crit nodes here. Call to arms just help us not to stand still and get a faster casting on enduring cry. So it just helps us not to get one-shotted, and it just makes mapping a lot smoother and boss fights. This one's very important. So this one increases the mana reservation efficiency of skills, and it increases the non-curse aura of our skills, which means, like, for instance, purity of elements will get, you get more percentage resistance from your purity of elements, and which means that you will save more mods on your gear because you don't need as many resistant mods on your gear. Life nodes, armor and life, crit nodes, obviously, life. These ones, I picked this because we have a lot of accuracy rating and attack speed, which help us to cap the accuracy hit chance. More life and a bit of ores, elemental damage, crit chance, strength, intelligence, and attack damage as well. And that is the tree. For leveling, this is just a generic Warcry like slam build. So obviously, you know, how you level up is up to you. I personally prefer to level up my characters with slams because I find that Warcries are very beneficial for leveling because you have the recover 15% when you Warcry, which is extremely helpful. You also have the another one, which is, I think, when you Warcry, you remove an ailment. This is amazing for like early leveling, that kind of stuff, like especially when you get chilled and kind of stuff. You could just Warcry and remove that chilled effect, helps you live up smoothly. Get this node, life and mana leech, as soon as possible, because otherwise you'll be stuck with a mana flask, and it's not fun because you will need some good flask to go with a melee build. Attack speed, self-explanatory. Unwavering stance, because obviously leveling we're very slow and clunky, we're a melee build. Being able to not get stunned is very crucial because it just stops us from essentially getting one-shotted by crazy mobs. Bit of life leech / damage. Help us to cap a res during the campaign. You can unselect these once you have enough res on your gear. Life damage. We come all the way up here. We have life, resolute technique, just to help us with our hit shots. As soon as you get a high level of precision and enough accuracy rating on your gear, you can obviously untick this and switch to a crit build. And obviously we've got a big old life reel here because we need more survivability as a melee build. And that's it, yeah. Leveling uniques, bog standard, everyone knows tabula rasa. Just get yourself a good two-handed weapons and you're pretty much done. Okay, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Please let me know about any questions you have for this build. Let me know what I can improve on. And yeah, and I'll see you guys next league. Thank you.